hello, friends. Hello. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, September 13th. Welcome to another weekly shot of vitamin K. And y'all, this week has been weekend already. I don't know how many of y'all saw the Emmys last night and saw my girl, Shirley Ralph, give such an epic acceptance speech and singing from the song Endangered Species by Diane Reeves that I am not an endangered species, but I sing no victim song. I am a woman, I am an artist, and I know where my voice belongs. Y'all, if that ain't touched me, I don't know what did. Woo! And she looked glorious. And I have to say, as someone who, when God was giving out all of the different gifts, let me tell you what I did not get my portion of. Patience. I did not get it. It was in short supply. I might have went to the bathroom when that happened. And so I did not get it. And so for someone who wants to have the results when I want them and when I think I put that work in, being delayed can feel like and has felt like a denial. And so her speech last night was especially touching for me as a reminder that what is for you, and your good does not pass you, and that you just have to be able to do really great work. So doing things that matter to you are so important, which is a timely message for the conversation that I get to have today with y'all and with one of my favorite master coaches in the world, Sharmayne Jenkins. And I get the pleasure of calling her a soror, my special, a friend, a confidant. She has been my coach. There goes Chanel once again. Chanel makes a debut or an exit every live that we have, y'all. It never fails. She's like, and now for my exit. Let me close back my office door, y'all. And watch her come back, friends. This is the reason why I had to start getting dressed on the bottom, y'all, because I have to keep getting up. So I asked Sharmayne to join us because Sharmayne not only has been my coach, but she was our coach in residence for the Rooted Collaborative RC Lounge membership for over a year, delivering powerful group coaching for our members. But she has her own coaching practice and amazing content and courses. And right now is getting her PhD in leadership. And so it is fabulous. She's fabulous. And I was like, maybe I will go back and get it. But either way, she's also going to be one of 3 facilitators at the Rooted Retreat in just 2 short weeks. And so I wanted her to come on and talk with us today because, friends, my inbox and DMs are flooded with thoughts of folks who are tired of performing. And so I said, who better than to bring on than someone who has gotten all my edges properly laid over how to be and not do. And that is Sharmayne Jenkins. So Sharmayne, I want to just welcome you to our live this week.
Boy, you too much hair on my face. I don't even know what direction, but you make me sound good. I sound good on paper.
You do. And live too.
Ed D, not a PhD.
Ed D.
In my case.
Do we not still call you doctor?
I will be Dr. Jenkins.
Doctor. Good enough for me, Doctor Jenkins. Doctor. That's all my friends have PhDs. I say that. I'm so ignorant. Meanwhile, am I going to ever get a PhD? Who can say? Can I sit still long enough to do those classes? I don't know. I barely made it out of my MBA program.
You'd be surprised.
I know, right? I was like, maybe I am an academician. I don't know. But this is
you're not an academic. You don't have to be an academic, but you are a lifelong learner.
That is true.
And so that will propel you like it did me, because it's just like amazing to like learn all these things and gain access to all these resources that you didn't know exist or didn't have access to because they cost billions of dollars. Right. So that part right there would keep you.
That's the thirst for learning. I love to learn a thing. So one of the things that, with my books, right? Wait, this way. Wait a minute. That way. And there are books on my desk and on the floor and in my bookshelf in the dining room and in the studio. Y'all know exactly. I am, and upstairs. And about 2/3 of them have been read at least once. And some of them are so dog-eared, I don't know what to do because they're my go-to references. And would you believe, Sharmayne, I want to know, first of all, before we start, But besides the leadership books that you have, both for your academic pursuits and just for your leadership in your coaching practice, what are your non-leadership books or favorite like reads that you go back to if it's not a book that you refer to time and time again?
I most of my books are about self-actualization. I don't call them self-help so much. So most of the stuff I read, I want to so bad get into fiction and all. I can't do it. And there was a time I really liked to read poetry. But even the poems I read were purposeful. Like, it wasn't Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah, you wasn't she was not in fact white as snow. It was great.
No. So so books that I refer back to a lot, the Four Agreements. I actually used that in a course I taught at York for 7 years. I had the opportunity to create a personal growth course, and I made that required reading for the students. Not leadership. I was going to say E-Myth, but E-Myth is kind of a leadership book.
That's a really powerful one though. I think that it always, I always notice that when folks are starting on the, like, I'm about to focus on myself, I need to figure out what's going on with me, that they find their way to the Four Agreements.
I mean, and you should. And I remember one of my friends that, her path is inspirational to me. Her name is Bevy Smith. And she was like, you don't really need another book, Sharmayne, because they're like, if you read another self-help book, like you don't have it all together and know all this stuff. But the Four Agreements, if just being, having integrity with your word, you could stop there.
That's it.
Right.
And that was one of the things about reading Four Agreements that it stopped me. And actually, one of my best friends, Rochelle, is the one who started reading it. If you don't leave that thing alone,
I can't see you.
Oh my gosh! Look,
I can see.
Clean your glasses.
No, not the glasses. I know they were dirty the other day. They cleaned it.
How dare you have all this glorious hair?
It's so ridiculous. But go ahead. I can see now.
Yeah. So I remember Rochelle talking about, the book she's also given it to me. And was always talk about like being integrity with your word, and the word choices that I now use, particularly as I coach and as I train folks. Like I realized like over time that my lexicon has shifted. And I remember even saying to the queenager, like, you out of integrity when she would tell a little lie or she would do some misstep. Cause I'm like, you're not a full on liar, but you are like doing some things that are not quite in integrity with yourself. And I think that was one of the things I took away from that practice. Go ahead.
But the Four Agreements, it is bigger than that principle, right? Like it's how you speak about yourself, how you speak about others, right? So it's not even all about just being honest and letting your yay be your yay and your nay be your nay, but it's also, and I think more importantly, it's about the conversations you have with yourself, right? And the Bible says blessings and cursing should not come from the same well, right? And so what are we doing here, right? What does our mouth indicate about us? Because, from the heart, the mouth speaks. So being careful and cognizant of your words lets you know a lot about where you are in your life. And if you're in integrity with who you said you're going to be and how you said you're going to show up, like, what are you creating?
And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about today, because I think as we enter into senior year now, the pandemic, what I'm seeing, I'm reading a lot of blogs, I'm reading a lot of posts. I'm trying to understand even where I fit in terms of the dialogue that's happening around being yourself and being authentic and performative, fill in the blank, whether it's performative allyship or it's performance at work or it's being a high performer. There's a lot around performance, and many of us have built careers and vocations around performing. And so how do we find our way to what's real about ourselves if there has been reward, financial, status, social, around doing something else and being something else?
So there's a big there's a big caveat. There's an assumption that they know who they are.
Uh-huh.
Right. So sometimes the I don't know how if you ever saw Bamboozled.
Yes.
Okay, but there was this the group that wore the blackface were Man Tan and Eat and Sleep, right? And sometimes our Man Tan and Eat and Sleep acts are so good that we forget who we are. Or sometimes we don't know the newer version of ourselves, right? Like we only know a version that was when we were clear on who we were. And we're always growing and changing, right? Like everything in this universe.
That's right.
And yeah, so the first thing is, do you even know who you are, right? And sometimes because we're performing, and sometimes because people are telling us who we need to be, right? When I was in my 30s, let's go back in time. So much time. I had a lot of different people who loved me telling me who I needed to be successful. So there were my friends, and then there was my church friends, and there were professional affiliations, and everybody had a comment on who I was supposed to be. Now, natural hair is in now. Not so much. I've been pretty much natural all my life, right? And in I'll say the mid 90s, I had a Caesar in the beginning of the 90s, and when I cut my hair off, people thought I either had cancer or turned into a lesbian, right? Because there was no other reason I would, want
go ahead and cut my hair. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what happened? Why'd you have to, right? And then when I grew it out, it was kind of like this, and I used to just wear my hair in an Afro puff. I had a better hairline, and my friends are pretty much of the J. Crew variety, and right. I've always been dirty backpack. I call myself a designer girl in the dirty backpack world, right? I cut when Gucci came out with the red, black, and green collection years ago. I was in my element.
You were like, yes, finally, they understand me.
Yes. So I would have, my friends will always have something to say about my hair, about my clothes. When we go shop together, I'd be like, how you like this? They'd be like, it's you.
That's the comment. That's the version of if you like it, I love it.
Right. Yeah, you would pick that. And I used to date an elected, and we'd go out, and my surrogate mom would be like, what you gonna do with that hair? Like, he met me with an Afro puff. He knows what it is. He gonna get this Afro puff with a good dress. I might make an Afro bun.
Right.
But, so they were there, and I was trying to figure that out. And I know they love me. They're trying to steer me. And in my church, I call myself now a cleavage Christian. The way I dressed for some people was not acceptable church wear, especially in the early 90s. They wanted me to have on a bedazzled, boxy suit jacket with a,
right.
And I had on form-fitting clothes, and I thought I looked wonderful, but that was a thing. And I wear short clothes sometimes. If I meet you in the middle of the summer, you get in this short skirt, and they'd be, they were frowning upon it. I dated someone in the ministry, and he came to me one day and asked, because he had been asked, why was I wearing an earring on my foot? And I was like, it's a toe ring, right? Like, if they got outside, they know what this is. But there was pressure, right? Because these were people, and these were environments and arenas that were important to me.
Yep.
And I was trying to figure out where I stood, and I started changing. I still have them, but my earrings are out. I have 15 holes in my ear. I used to have my tongue pierced. My friend was like, how you going to parent teacher with your tongue pierced? What are they going to think of you? And I was like, I'm not talking like that. But everything about me was questioned. And so I started questioning myself. And then I started trying to change. Oh, I had a good little bob, and it was a thing.
Yeah.
And then somewhere in my late 40s, because again, here I am no spring chicken. I really started thinking about, who am I?
Who am I? Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know who I was because I had been so busy trying to be what everybody else said was who I needed to be in order to succeed in different circles or to fit in with my friends and to stop getting slick comments, And I didn't have a tribe that looked like me. Like I didn't have it. That I really had to start dismantling who I'd become, this play version of myself. I had to dismantle her and then start the discovery of who I was. So when you ask that question, it's a real long answer, I know.
But it's like that context I think is really important because first of all, I don't think a lot of women who are more seasoned in life, and in particular Black women, actually really articulate those really pivotal stages in their life and what that did to them. So what we end up seeing is the result.
And it starts in childhood too, right?
Correct.
You're told who you're supposed to be. You're admonished for showing up in ways that don't align with what it is the people who are rearing you expect, right? The teachers, the parents, the aunties, the grandparents. Like there's a lot of people who are telling you what's acceptable and what's not acceptable.
I mean, that's happening even now, right? So one of the things that I think is a challenge for me is, I'm West Indian, I'm first gen. And so there's the tension between things that are Black American and things that are Black Caribbean. And those things are often at odds with one another. And it shows up very clearly, both in the way I parent and also in the friction I have with my parents who are still alive and who are active grandparents about how I manage the queenager, how I allow her to dress, the fact that she has lots of piercings, the fact that she has tattoos, so do I. Why did I let her do that? It has caused all manner of consternation, grief, conversation, and at every moment, my parenting is called into question, and my parents are not quiet about it. And so they're not having this conversation off to the side with me. They're in front of kid being like, and I don't agree with this, And so Sanai has to push against that and think she has a lot of agency, that child. But I, and my grown age, then are still questioning who I am because the people who I really respect and rely on and whose opinions really matter to me are still naming what matters to them as if it should matter to me. And I'm now in this place where I am really starting to learn, who am I exactly? And it is not exactly like how I've been raised for the last 40 odd years, which is scary as all get out. So we have some comments. I'm going to read them to you. So Jillian, Mama J says, words are power. That's one of our other facilitators, y'all, at the retreat. And Michaela says, yes, it starts early from childhood, frown face. Rochelle says, we're given so many assignments from our microcosm. Social norms are so limiting. Tijuana says, hello, Sora. You don't even know how much I needed this conversation today. And so tune in, y'all, tag some friends into this conversation because when we get the master, we get some masters on, we got to talk. So Sharmayne, I gave you back a lot in terms of my question. So one, it was, why do you think that we don't get to see the pieces from women who are more seasoned so that we can have a different type of guidance to move into ourselves? Because it seems like we end up walking the same warm pebblestones anyway.
So a few things, just and backtracking a little bit.
Sure, go ahead.
Most people who have something to say to us love us, right? Yeah. And they're doing it out of love. People that don't care about you don't care about you, right? The opposite of love isn't hate. The opposite of love is indifference, right? Like, whatever, kill yourself. Keep going. I don't care. Run into the wall. So that's what love looks like. And I don't know that it's a West Indian thing and an American thing as much as a different set of ideals. Look, I'm American. I fancy myself hip, and I still look at, how you parent, and I'm like, interesting.
Oh, I parent, right? Yeah,
okay.
You do. You have said interesting a couple times,
right?
But maybe I wouldn't have done that.
Right, yeah. One thing, explain your thinking around that, right? And so is there a right or a wrong? No. Is what they're telling you, does it have value? Maybe. Will it come to you in hindsight? Yes, right? Like they said, hindsight is 2020, right? Sometimes people have things to say that are so valuable, but here to me is the catch 22. And I say it all the time. A lot of people parent from their pain, right? They parent from their pain. Things happen to them, it hurt them. They don't want you to get hurt. So they try to help you avoid that. And what it might look like to you and what it might actually be is not in alignment with who you are and what will work for you, right? So extreme. Let's just say they got a Mickey Mouse tattoo when they were younger at the at home tattoo party, and it looks crazy, and they got an infection in their skin or something. They might be the you. Don't get any tattoos, right? That doesn't work. Or what if, they realized when they went for a job interview, somebody saw their ugly tattoo, did what people do and make decisions about what that said about them, and now they're trying to protect you, right? But you have a career as a creative, and you can do whatever you want. And you went to a real artist, and their stuff was clean, so it's a different experience, and you have different ways you can express yourself because of your choices. And so you can't see the logic in it, right? It's not to say there's no logic and it's not valid. They might understand something. They might have seen some things you don't. Who knows? Your child might regret getting tattoos. Let me tell you something too. And this is off topic, on topic. Sometimes kids get mad at us later because they're like, why did you stop me from doing that? You're supposed to know better, and you just let me do what I wanted to do. I begged my mother at 19 to parent me more because my mom was like a hippie. My mom was really a hippie. Like she,
be free in the world.
Express yourself and blah, blah, blah. And I can't tell you what to do. I'm just here for guidance and all that. And at some point it was like, girl, don't you see? I'm not making good decisions if you don't come out here and act like a mother, right? Like literally begging her. So, and I know she parented that way because she was parented strictly as she grew up in the 60s. She was flower child, express yourself. And I was like, it ain't working, girl. It ain't working. And my friends was like, oh, I wish I had a mother like yours. And I was like, if you don't tell me what to do.
Right. You like, hello.
Stop me. This agency thing is overrated, right? And so that might, who knows, later she might be, you really should have reeled me in a little more, Mom. Right? We don't know. These things will come to pass, right? But all that to say, so it comes from love. Anybody who speaks into our lives, even when it's harsh, they matter. You matter to them, right? You matter, else they wouldn't even try to change it. And number two is that, people play safe a lot. And when there's people out here who are trying not to play safe, it rattles them and they're scared for you. It's still a love thing, right? And people have limited vision, so they can't speak to the vision you have, right? And the elephant and a mouse can look at the same thing, but they have different vantage points, which opens them up to different things. Neither good, bad, right, or wrong. They're both needed. So a lot of times I think that we throw out what people are giving us without really talking to them about why they're offering it to us, right? Instead of, you're just a hater, you don't get me, you trying to kill my vibe, you want me to be like you don't understand. Maybe they do see something that you don't see, that they understand because they have a different vantage point, right? So there might be validity to what they say, and some of it might be just a limited view, but until you have the conversations, you don't know.
So how do you know how to parse that out, though? I feel like maybe it goes back to like many of us don't really know ourselves, or we don't slow down enough to get to know ourselves. And you said, and our new selves, because we are constantly iterating.
Constantly. And if you're not, something ain't right, right? The cycles go, either you're growing or you're dying. That's what everything, from plants to people.
Plants to people.
So here's I don't think you can suss it out. I think a lot of it happens without our intention, without intentionally trying to do it. I think when we try too hard, sometimes we bug ourselves out and we crash into a wall. But I think a lot of it is being like super hyper aware of yourself, right? Like, and it can be a pain in the butt, and it can be taken to an extreme. But to really be cognizant of what your body is saying, what you're thinking in different moments, right? Mm-hmm. As you show up, and what your intentions and motivations are, right? Why am I wearing this? Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this?
You know, what was the foundation for what I'm creating here, right? And if we spend some time with it, it could be a pain in the butt. And we could OD where everything becomes a thing. Why am I picking this nail color? But that might be a real conversation. Sometimes you guys got to figure out what's worthy or not. But if somebody does something and your eyebrow flinches, like, notice that, right? Notice your micro expressions when things are happening. Why is that happening? Why don't I feel good when they say that, when that's being done? What's going on here, right? Why am I busting my behind for something I don't believe in?
Right. I mean, that is, I think, where many of us end up in our professional work and in our social circles. Some people say in our families too, because if you're not paying attention to any of these questions, if you're not in conversation with yourself, if you're scared to slow down, because it could be really scary to slow down enough to be able to say, like, but why is this really going on? What is happening here? And then it bleeds into your work.
Yeah, the truth sometimes it ain't a cute place to be. I mean, it might set you free, but what you got to go through to get out, right? And most people are not willing to, like, go through everything you might need to go through to be free from something, right? And so when the work starts, they're like, people don't realize that growth and distress oftentimes coexist, right?
I think that's like going through the maze and not being able to get out, and knowing that you can see the exit over there, you still can't figure out which way to go to the exit. That is distress. Right. You grow during that time, but
or the pain, right? The dealing with everything you have to deal with internally, externally. Because a lot of people don't want you to change, right? Because you changing is going to require them to change. If you're home all alone and you realize that you're not on a spiritual journey, you just scared to date, right? Because we make up some sexy reasons for why our lives don't look a certain way.
Like what? What are some of the lies and the reasons we tell ourselves?
I mean, everybody's got their own, right? You know, and sometimes it can be steeped in really practical things that make sense. And I'll use me for an example here. So I was celibate for 13 years, right? Everybody gasps when I say that. I'm really looking to live a consecrated Christian life. What I realized further down the line was I wasn't doing it for Christ. I was doing it because I was scared of being in relationship and the intimacy, and it became my weapon and my shield not to be in it, right? So my motivations weren't the same. It just made it easier for me not to get hurt because I didn't put myself in relationships to that kind of depth, right? And I didn't have to worry about the things that happen that I see happen to my friends, you know, when they took relationships there, right? So, but for years, I was just, you know, living for the Lord. And that wasn't really the truth, right? So sometimes we're doing good things, but we're not really doing them for the reasons we think we're doing them for. And so even to be honest with yourself about that and to understand that sometimes even what motivates you to do certain things aren't, and that they can become your crutch, right? Staying the same can be our crutch just as much as it's a crutch for other people. And so Is it a safety thing? Is it to protect you? Is it because you're scared of what's new and available, scared of failing, scared of rejection, right? There's usually only a few things that we're scared of, rejection being one of them, failure, success, right? It all boils down to those ultimately,
Yeah.
right? So are we motivated? Is it for the freedom, or is it because we're scared of doing anything else? And that's professionally and that's personally. So, and then when you have people committed to you staying the same, for them, it becomes even harder to change sometimes. You know, if you're the friend with the don't date, that means you take care of my kids all the time, so I'm in the street. People won't want you to date because
They
if you
don't want you. No, they're like, no.
yeah, now you're not making. You got a
we
man now. You got a man. You want your weekends.
I mean, that's a real deal. I have a good friend who we would run the streets together, and running the streets is real loose because I'd be at the house. We would run the streets together. That was my running buddy. And then she got in a relationship, and I realized, oh, I hadn't really made no other friends because I was scared to have more friends because I had some friendship disappointments, and also my closest friends at the time lived in other states, and so I didn't really want to make new friends. And so when she got into a relationship, I was like, now my social life is over. Right. And that's actually not true.
But then some people will actively try to destroy that because they need you to be there. And another thing that happens too is if you change, that takes away a lot of other people's excuses to change, right? Because if they built this narrative around what's possible, what's not possible for people like us, then you go and change. Now you've been taking away my excuses. I can't have you do that. So I'm going to find ways to try to prevent you from changing. And it might look, and I might not even realize what I'm doing, right? Why are you doing that? You're fine. It's taking too much work. You seem so stressed. Maybe you should leave that alone. It doesn't have to look like, look at you, now you out here. And I used to tell my students, some of the first people that's going to try and keep you from this will be the people you love. Oh, you think you're cute now? You're in school. Now you ain't got no time for nobody. You want to run around, right? So it can look all kinds of ways. And they might not even realize that it's not about you. It's about them. Because it's never about us. It's always about the other person and their life and what they're trying to create and protect. So if we get caught up in that, and particularly if things are getting hard, we might acquiesce to that, which, especially if we don't have a circle who's been there before, who's done it before, and who can tell us what to expect. And growth, another good point is that growth oftentimes feels like loss, right?
Woo! Yes. And okay, so I want to be able to, so let's pause there for a second. So many of us have been rewarded for being first in class, first to finish. How many times have we jumped up and down because somebody got another degree, another certification, they got engaged, they got married? So we keep grabbing the rung of what we've been told is a ticker tape of success. But where does it go left? Like, can you perform yourself into the ground?
Well, listen, people get rewarded for not doing stuff too, right? So, true. Which is why some people say suck, right? Mm-hmm. Girl, you don't need no man. Strong black woman. All that kind of stuff. So you got to watch that too. Just thought I'd throw that in there.
Yep.
In order to get this, you got to let that go. In order to do this, you got to do that. But the success thing, I think that it only becomes dangerous when you're living somebody else's story.
Woo!
Right.
Say more on that.
Well, because again, from childhood, we're told what success looks like, right? And that changes generationally. Mm-hmm. And it goes back again to I think parenting from your pain. There's a hair in my eye, sorry. So, marriage, a kid was a thing. Then a career was a thing. Then marriage, kid, and the career was a thing. And, then not getting married has become a thing. And, forfeiting a career was a thing at some point, and then having it all and juggling it was a thing, and then only being focused on your career because that's supposed to bring actualization is a thing. Different eras, right? So these narratives usually not born out of the generation that's looking to achieve them, usually born out of what other people have steered them to as success, or when they looked at what they thought was a failure, they went for the antithesis, which still means you're being controlled by the previous generation.
Exactly.
Right? So when people are driven that way, I often wonder why. Are they running from something or are they running to something?
I will tell you from personal experience, and this is the thing that, you and I were talking about this the other day. Can you coach when you're in the middle of something, right? And you were like, that's the best place.
That's the only place.
The only place. You didn't even say best. You said it's the only place. And because y'all, I was out here crying on the phone at 7 a.m. I don't know what I'm doing. And people turn to me for all manner of advice. And I'm a relationship coach now. And is anybody going to believe that's what I do? And you were like, shut it. You're like, get it together. What's happening here? You have to be able to understand what's happening in your moment now and really be in it, but you can use that to help others grow. And in fact, that's the best place because you
don't even have to understand what's going on.
You don't even have to understand it. That is the part that blew my mind, y'all. For those of y'all who have been chasing someone else's story, and that can be for me, it was the folks who are alums of my school. I went to a PWI. There aren't that many Black people who went to my school, but in the 3 to 4 classes ahead of me and down, we have some rock stars, like just some straight winners. And for years, I know now, I didn't know it then, that I was chasing the careers that they were having. But since I was in nonprofit work and these folks were in for-profit work, I always had this like small pea-sized Princess and the Pea of not feeling worthy enough because I didn't go the path of the school that everybody else went to. And I was chasing, how do you get to that level of success doing it this way? But my eye was over here, even though I'm running here. So that's a real-time example.
Yeah, in positive psychology, there's like these 12, I don't remember what you call them, but tenets that help you towards creating happiness in your life. And one is actually what you shouldn't do, and that's social comparison, right? You'll never, ever be happy as long as you engage in social comparison, because somebody's always going to be more or less of something, right? And then 2, making up the stories about people in fact being happy, right? And feeling and being successful. So, I got my MBA and I opened a salon. I always did hair. It's what I wanted to do. And it was a bunch of us that got MBAs at the same time. I had a client that was getting hers and she talked me into it. And then everybody was expecting me to have a certain career. So the same client that talked me into it, she went on finance, blah, 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 and all the accoutrement. And I did what I did. And, sometimes, I should have just. And then we talked sometime and she was like, I've always been so envious of you. You followed your dream. You wasn't scared. You had time with your child, because I always bought my, daughter I picked up from school and I brought her to the salon and I made my schedule flexible around certain things. And she had a nanny and felt like she didn't have enough time with her daughter and blah, 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 because we both had one daughter. So, you never know. She's over here like, dag, I wish I was brave enough. A lot of people thought it brave of me not to follow the conventional path. I wish I was brave enough to do that. And I wonder what my life would have looked like. So it's real dangerous to sit over here looking at other people's lives like, ooh, they got it made. Because a lot of them are 1 second from, doing something harmful to themselves because they're so unhappy with what they created, because, they thought it was what they were supposed to do. Happiness is an inside job. Everybody always says that. It sounds corny as a cornfield. I know. But it really is. And that will propel you to make different decisions. And I don't think anybody just makes all manner of decisions that everyone's a good one and they're happy and content with it, right? Life doesn't look like that. Even when you're balanced, the scale doesn't stop, right? The scale is doing this. You just manage to keep it from tipping from one, but it's never steady. It's always moving. It's always an adjustment. There's always something that's pulling one way or the other. That's just the way it looks. So I think, to the original point, when you're more cognizant of how you respond and react to your choices, stimuli, other people's experiences, suggestion words, your history, it'll start to allow you to unfold, because you can prune away the pieces that don't work. And then, biblically, like I said, my good little background I created, but biblically, there's always your prune. Joyce Meyer used to say, "You're pruned if you do, and pruned if you don't." Like, even when you're doing good things, there's pieces that are still going to have to get cut off, right? Because
I'm in that season now.
Yeah, they can't have your attention, because when there's extra limbs around, it's taking away nourishment and everything else that should be going towards there. And then the things that aren't working need to be pruned too, right? So there's always going to be a pruning. And here, watch this. The pruning, it was allowed for the blooming.
Hey, look at that.
Tying it back.
Hey.
But the truth, like, you think of any plant you're trying to grow, there's always something that, there's a leaf, there's a flower that, withers away. There's seasons when the things, even I have evergreens in my backyard. There's patches on the evergreen that's brown. I was like, what's that about? Not getting enough sun.
Yeah.
It grows too high. I still have to cut it. When it's growing, I have to cut it. If things are going brown, I have to cut it.
Yep.
For it to maintain what's healthy and to align with the environment. So I think people have to, also worry about when they get upset about the pruning, right? I'm doing everything right and still.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you can, whether you're living your life for yourself or for others, it's still gonna be some pruning. But when you start cutting away the pieces of you that you didn't actually that don't actually serve who you're trying to be, or who you want to be, or who you realize you are, it can be painful and it can feel like loss, right? Sometimes you lose relationships. Sometimes you lose the thing that made you significant in other areas. Sometimes you lose your way, because this is the only way you knew to be, and now there's this new thing and you don't know what to do with it. It's a process, right? It took you this long to become an adult, and it really feels like it sucks the later in life it happens. Like sometimes I can't believe I'm 40, 50, 60.
And I'm just now, right?
Like I did all of this, and sometimes you feel like you put the ladder on the wrong wall, right? And then here I am. That's why I understand now when people, give everything away and then go sell seashells on the beach, right? Because it's like, this life isn't really serving me anymore, if it ever did. So I think that it's a process, but I think when we become unhappy and realize we're not aligned with our true selves, you feel it. There's a frustration
that you are
experiencing. How I know. Yeah, it really feels you feel kind of dead, because you're like, this life really, it doesn't feel life affirming.
Doesn't feel life affirming. Yeah, I was saying the other day, like, you just feel like you're having this ongoing V8. For those of us, I'm showing my age, you're like, I could have had a V8. If you're having a meh moment across every aspect of your life, and it's not episodic, and it just feels like it is the song that never ends, like, that also is an indication that you are performing a life that is different, and that you are on your way down, and you need to take a moment to pause, and that pause might be painful, and that pause will involve pruning, and that pause will involve powerfully releasing some things. And it may not feel good to you. It may be painful, right? Like all the things that you named.
And it might be easy for some people.
And it might be easy, right? Let's talk about the other stuff.
Right.
It could be easy for some people. They're like, it's about time.
Woo!
We're allowed to have both of
free
those.
at last.
Yeah.
But if you're going to bed and it doesn't feel good when you lay your head down, there's something to think about.
Something to think about.
And as you talk career-wise, you know, too, sometimes our career is a bad relationship that we just don't know how to leave, right?
Yeah.
And so it can be really an abusive relationship, and we don't know how to get out of it because it's all we know how to do, and and you know, your name is known in this arena.
Yes.
And I don't want to start from the bottom, like we'll make up a story, or the thing I want to do won't sustain the lifestyle I've created, you know, and so we stay in the relationship because of all the other things.
That's right. That's right. Woo! But we don't have to come back for another that when your job is the bad relationship that you won't get out of. Listen, you heard it here first. Because look, Sharmayne, I was like, who are going to be the people I'm going to have on? Y'all, I'm going to be bringing on the same 5 people all the time because I have my couch experts. Why do I need to go search for all these new people when I actually have the bag of all bags of experts in my Rolodex? So, y'all, this is just a taste of what our attendees, both virtual and in person, are going to be experiencing at the Rooted Retreat in just 2 weeks. So, I mean, I am so excited that you were going to be leading these powerful conversations and coaching moments for women who are going to be there with us in Jamaica. And you've been able to do this for our members for the last couple of years and have just been so impactful in having folks who have started different careers, they've taken steps in their relationship, they've started businesses because of the ongoing coaching that you've been able to provide for us. And so, y'all, if you ain't coming, I'm so sorry, because then you just get to have her all the time to ourselves, but also on the internet. When you're not in grad school, are you taking clients currently? Because people are going to want to know.
I'm getting ready to. I'm going to relaunch my small group coaching.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yep.
I can't wait, because listen, y'all have not been blessed. And we have a lot of folks who end up watching us in our replay. So I know I'm gonna get comments all through the week. But really the takeaways to me today were that change is going to happen. Being present in who you are and in what you're doing and in how you're showing up in the world is a 24/7 job. Hello, pay attention, y'all. Okay, we are not on autopilot. We are actually driving a stick shift of our life. Okay. And that you've got to prune in order to bloom, right? And that it may be painful, but it may be painless. And you just have to be willing to step into that so that you can stop performing the life that you think you're supposed to have. And that you might have done a hell of a lot of designing and actioning and building and decorating of, so that you can have the life that you really deserve. So I think that's really important. Did I leave anything out? Did I leave out?
When you said that, I just wanted to say, sometimes you did a perfect job, but then in this new season, it's just, there's a new calling on your life, and there's just a new direction. So sometimes it wasn't even the wrong decision or a bad one. It's just time for a new one.
Just time for a new one. Just time for a new one. That's so true. Sharmayne, thank you so much for joining us today. Y'all, I'm dropping across the bottom. The tickets to join us in Jamaica are now officially closed. We have sent our final roster to the hotel. And so we are closing that, y'all. That is a lot of work for my team to be able to do, but we are officially taking 30 women with us to the retreat. 35, excuse me. 36. Woo, sorry, y'all. Shout out to Bloomerang for being our conference sponsor and for also giving us 5 scholarships. Shout out to Haven and shout out to Tim Locke for also providing 2 additional sponsorships. Shout out to Mallory Erickson, who put a really powerful post on LinkedIn that said, get your lives together and make sure these women could go. And if you have been on the fence about supporting our work, You still have an opportunity to do so for women who want to be able to join us virtually. I don't know if I can pull any strings, Sharmayne, to get us there, to get anybody else on the seat, but I could try. Listen, I was persuasive last week, but Sharmayne is going to be a powerful part of our retreat offering because our goal is to ensure that we are living whole, thriving lives so that we can show up powerfully at home and at work. So Sharmayne, I want to thank you so much for joining me today to talk about performance versus authenticity.
Oh, Lord.
And, and we'll talk real soon. Okay, y'all. So Sharmayne is amazing. So excited that I get to have her as a part of my kitchen cabinet, my personal advisory team, and she will be a part of the Rooted Retreat. And so if you are looking to do more work with us, please feel free to join us at www.therootedretreat.com. And if you're like, Kishshana, actually, I want to dig in deeper. I want to get some more work around my life, my strategy, my team. Then you can always book a strategy call with me where you'll spend the day with me working on what you need for your life, your career, and your work. And if you're like, Kishshana, you know what? That sounds good. But what I really want to do first is shore up what's happening for me at work. And I want to shore up what's happening for me with my team. Then you've got to pop into our October class for Kish Camp. I'm going to be doing one class a month, y'all, for Kish Camp. I decided that the other day because my September campers had such a good time that I'm going to be offering this once a month for the foreseeable future. So you'll have opportunities to join us for Kish Camp over the next few months to become a more confident manager and leader. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with me today for another episode of Vitamin K. Each of you are a gift, and I am so excited that I get to do this. I'll be back next week for another shot of Vitamin K, and I want to leave you with a short clip on how to thrive as a leader.
I believe in order to lead well, you've got to be able to live well. And that means focusing on your physical health, your mental health, and your emotional and your psychological health. Critical. And if you want to know more about how I think about that, then make sure you watch my video on how I break those 3 types of self-care down. So I want to make sure that as you think about the conversation that you have with your manager, that you are thinking about how you need to align how you take care of yourself and all that. Because it's really easy on our path to goal to burn ourselves out on the way and put ourselves last. And then you end up with resentment. You end up with all the clutter on all over the place, undone tasks, things out of order, priorities all a mess. And then you are at the risk of being pulled hither and yon by your overworked, super tired, stressed out manager who may not really be actively thinking about how their actions are impacting yours. They should, but they may not be. And so in order to be able to do some spring cleaning and get back on track, first, you've got to clean your own house. Get those sticky notes off. Get those priorities back in order, align to what your responsibilities are for that quarter. How do they line up to your organizational or your team goals? Prioritizing them by urgency, having some suggested solutions for how you would move forward. So what your go forward is to be able to talk with your manager, and ensuring that you have built into that schema for the next 3 months how you're planning to take care of yourself.